It's been about 2 months since the last video where I introduced this space to you, and in that time, the entire thing's been built out and I've moved in. So I want to catch you up today on everything that's happened since the last video, going from the start of the construction process up until today. So let's dive right in. As a bit of a recap, I found this place back in October and I put an offer in to purchase right after Thanksgiving. The space was a complete blank slate, a former auto repair shop that had been redeveloped into a number of flex condominiums. One of the things that attracted me to the space, outside of the very reasonable price, the good location, and the ability to participate in the adaptive reuse of a brownfield site, was that the developer has a long track record of rehabbing properties like this one and has a very hands-on approach of working with the people that he sells to. That means that he offered to make the architectural blueprints of the site to my specifications while offering up suggestions based on his decades of expertise over a wide range of projects. He also said that he can make connections to the contractors that he personally uses, as well as provide access to his contractor accounts, meaning that any of the building materials that I'd be purchasing would be considerably cheaper than if I were to do it on my own. And I think that both of these things ended up really paying dividends for me in the end. And after a few rounds of iteration, he provided me with a final set of plans that I was able to sign off on by the time that we closed on January 30th. And that was perfect because it meant that we could begin construction on February 4th, the Monday after closing. Now, because the plans were signed, the framer actually came in the weekend before and framed everything out by the end of February 4th. Now, I know that they're professionals and they know what they're doing, but I'll be honest, I was absolutely floored. It was shocking seeing the thing that I had planned in SketchUp come to life in what felt like real time. It was wild. And because the framing was done, on February 5th, the electrician came to discuss power and networking. Now, considering all of the power issues that I had at my last office, I was a little bit sensitive in this regard and probably went a little overboard. As a result, I requested that all the electrical be isolated to the maximum extent possible. Even though the space is relatively small, I wanted every single room to have its own circuit. Further, I wanted multiple circuits in the production space. In the production space, every other outlet is placed on a different circuit, making it basically impossible for me to have a gaming PC and streaming PC on the same circuit, reducing the likelihood of tripping a breaker. Further, I isolated all of my lighting circuits from my outlets and added an outlet on the ceiling, which I'll eventually use when I ceiling mount all of my lighting. Speaking of lighting, the developer offered me some recycled pendant lighting from a project he worked on recently, which I accepted for the entry space. I also added track lighting to the hall, which could be used not only to illuminate the hall, but also some wall art in the future. I also felt that the kitchen area seemed a bit dark after capping the production space, so I had one more ceiling LED added to balance out the lighting. The only other unusual electrical decision that I made was to install an outlet right here, right at eye level outside of the production space. The idea was that I wanted to eventually add a digital calendar right here with my schedule on it. But the funny thing is, I don't think I'm actually going to need this, which is kind of unfortunate. And that's because Snazzy Lab posted a video about the Terminal XL e-ink dashboard, which I ended up ordering to serve this purpose. And the battery on that lasts 2 to 6 months, so a couple of regrets there. Now, for networking, initially I wanted to run conduit to each of the rooms, but I started to think it'd likely be way too complex to make sense. Not only would there be a ton of bends, but I wasn't 100% sure it'd work with the number of runs I wanted to have in the space. Ultimately, I decided to run Cat6 throughout the entire studio. The main reason for this is I want to have 10 gig connectivity to my NAS regardless of where I am in the space. And there are 2 reasons for this. Number 1, it'll make file transfer much faster. And number 2, it'll enable me to edit directly from the NAS in a pinch. And ultimately, for that kind of throughput, Cat6 is required. If I attempted with Cat5e, I'd introduce interference, slower speeds, and potentially drops and disconnects. Now, I added runs throughout the entire space. The first one is right here above the entryway, where I wanted to install a Ubiquiti security camera. I added another one above the admin and editor offices, which I initially thought I'd use for Wi-Fi, but I ended up using for a security camera to capture the main entryway from the inside. I also added one run to both the editor's office and the admin office, and I added one to each of the walls in the production space. That said, before I moved in, the developer added Cat5e runs to the shared wall. Now, while that was very thoughtful, I mentioned just a moment ago that Cat5e isn't fast enough for 10 gig connections, so I made the tough call to replace those. I could have left those runs as is, but it's cheaper to do something right the first time than to fix it down the line. So I'm very thankful that my electrician seemed to take it all in stride. And the crazy thing is, he worked incredibly fast too. By the next day, the electrical and networking were completely roughed in. And again, I was absolutely floored at the speed at which things were being accomplished. Next came drywall and insulation. 4-inch Rockwool was added to all of the interior walls in the production space, and 6-inch Rockwool was added to the ceiling. And for the shared wall, a 5/8 of an inch thick Soundbreak XP drywall was added over the top of the existing drywall to isolate the production space from the neighboring unit. By Monday, February 16th, the insulation and drywall were up, and by the end of the week, the space was mudded and sanded. The following week, the space was textured and painted. I ended up going with a Sherwin-Williams paint called Drift of Mist in Matte. I wanted something that was off-white and fairly neutral, that could brighten up the space without making it feel clinical. I went with something matte so that it would look good on camera, it wouldn't look shiny. And once everything dried, the electrician came through to finalize installing fixtures, outlets, and wall jacks. Now, initially, I thought I was going to add accent walls, but I decided to go with wood veneer panels instead, which serve a few purposes. Number 1, control reverb. Number 2, break up the white space. And number 3, add a natural material to each room, which again, I think humanizes the space. Now, at this point, I was able to walk into my mostly complete production space. And I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of horrified, but not exactly surprised to find out that it was an echo chamber. Echo. Initially, I was thinking that I'd keep the polished concrete and just add rugs, but I realized right away that this was not gonna be adequate, and I'd have to add some kind of carpeting. So I ended up asking my general contractor to add dark colored carpet squares to the production room, the offices, and the server room. And honestly, I think it was the right call. Not only does it help control the reverb and echo, but it also helps better define each of the spaces. And the carpet install couldn't have been scheduled for a better time. I had a trip to Sweden scheduled for mid-March, and the install was supposed to take place while I was away. Now, you might have noticed that everything seemed to be going exceptionally well up until this point. And if there's anything that you should know about construction, it's that things never go to plan, and that just when you think things are going well, they go sideways. So the night before I'm checking into my flight to Sweden, I get this very concerning email from someone else in the building. They say that a delivery driver forgot to put their car into park when they were delivering a package, and their car drove right into the building, right by my suite. Though the damage in this photo looks really bad, and it really was for my neighbor, my unit was mostly spared. I had a small crack in the corner of my storage room, but nothing that actually warranted a repair. So, crisis averted, and thankfully so, because I was having all that I could handle with my old space. You know, I haven't mentioned this yet, but I was still in a lease and I hadn't told my landlord of my intent to leave. Before heading to Sweden though, I wrote them a letter informing them of my intent to vacate the premises by the end of March. And while I expected this entire process to be pretty acrimonious, it was surprisingly amicable. However, to leave the lease, I was required to sign a document promising that I wouldn't disclose the terms of the agreement. But take it from me, I'm very happy with the results and I no longer have a lease, so things are good. But that also added more pressure. I said I'd be out by the end of March, and they agreed, which means that the studio had to be done before then. I got back from Sweden on March 17th. It was incredible to see how much progress had been made while I was gone. But it was also a bit alarming to see how many things were not done that I thought would be done. But let's start out with the good things. One of the first things that I saw when I walked into this suite was a gift from the developer. He had handcrafted and installed a wooden skyline featuring my channel's name in the background. This is the kind of thing that makes the place really feel like it's mine, and this is really, really special to me. Also installed was one of the most important features for my business, the internet. Now, when I first looked at the space, I was pretty alarmed to see that it was 2 blocks away from the fiber service area. Both AT&T and Spectrum said that they could connect fiber to the space, but that it would have to be a dedicated connection, which would cost $500 per month and require a 2-year service contract minimum. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to pay $12,000 for the internet for 2 years. You know, I actually thought about passing on the space entirely rather than dealing with Spectrum's 55 megabit per second upload speeds. But then I kept digging and I learned that Spectrum is planning a high split upgrade, which will bring 1 gig symmetrical speeds over cable, and it's supposedly coming soon. And as I continued spiraling about the internet, I ended up stumbling upon a local ISP that I had never heard of called ResTech. They claimed that they could deliver 1,000 up and 200 to 300 down for about $150 per month. And I get it, that sounds like a lot, but it's kind of the going rate for business grade internet. It's actually exactly what Spectrum would charge me for their cable service. Now, for that price, ResTech offered a 99.99999% uptime guarantee, and they said I'd have someone local to talk to if I ever ran into issues. I actually had the cell phone number of someone that I could call right now if I ran into any problems. Obviously, Spectrum won't do that. And you know, I just can't say enough good things about them. Not only did I get to meet the person that sold me the service in person, not only did I have a real human to talk to within 60 seconds when I was configuring the service for the first time, but they also ended up providing way more bandwidth than they initially quoted. Now, this happened because before installing my service, they reached out to other owners in the building to see if they had an interest in switching to ResTech. A few did, and as a result, they added a better receiver to the building, which increased the overall bandwidth. And as a result, I've been consistently getting 1,000 down and nearly 500 up, basically doubling the upload speeds I was expecting. Now tell me, has your ISP ever exceeded your expectations with service? Have they ever provided faster than advertised speeds? Because for me, this is a whole new world. And considering upload speeds were my biggest concern, this is basically a dream scenario for me. And the craziest thing to me is that I'm getting a 2 millisecond ping with this setup. That is wild. It's like fiber. One of the other cool things about ResTech is that they operate one of the most advanced data centers in Madison. In fact, a couple years ago, when a transformer blew and all of downtown Madison lost power, it was the only building that didn't lose power. Let me know in the comments below if you want to tour that space. My ResTech contact said they might be able to organize one. Now, to get internet service to my building, ResTech installed a Unify Wave Pro on the top of the building and pointed it at a receiver at a building that they're providing fiber service to. Now, I'll be honest. Initially, I was pretty skeptical that this would provide enough throughput or be reliable enough for what I do. I stream weekly and run multiple streams concurrently, and that really chews through a ton of bandwidth. I also back up hundreds of gigs worth of data daily between my home and office servers, so without a fast, reliable upload speed, my servers would never stay synchronized. I have never been happier to be proven wrong. After using it for about a month and pretty much every terrible weather condition that Wisconsin could throw at it, including blizzards, thunderstorms, wind, fog, and hail, I haven't experienced even one dropout or speed reduction. The wildest thing to me is that the receiver's only $600 and it can transmit up to 15 kilometers. It's able to transfer 5.4 gigabits per second over its 60 gigahertz radio. But if the weather turns for some reason, it automatically switches over to its 5 gigahertz backup radio, which can still handle 800 megabits per second. And even though we've experienced some of the most extreme weather that I've ever experienced in my life over the last month, RIP to my car, it's never switched to the backup receiver, not even once. I've got to admit though, one thing has occurred to me. My house is only 7 kilometers from here and on a hill. I have a dream machine at both locations, and there's a lake in between my house and here. So I think I might have been able to establish a direct line of sight and just connect it directly to my house. And considering I can get a 5 gig symmetrical connection at home, I probably could have done this all myself. Maybe sometime down the line, I'll experiment with that. But for now, I'm pretty happy with my current solution. It's nice knowing that someone else has to make sure that the receiver is pointing in the right direction and that my internet service is stable. But with those feel-good things out of the way, let's move on to some of the bad stuff. Earlier, I mentioned that a few things weren't ready when I got back, and the carpet squares are one of those things. Now, this was completely out of anyone's hands. It was due to shipping delays, but it still happened. And this was particularly problematic because I hired movers for the 22nd, and rescheduling wouldn't be possible because many of the movers were in college, and the following week is spring break. And of course, most of what I'd be moving is furniture that would go in one of the spaces that's supposed to have the carpet squares. So ultimately, I just had to roll with the punches. And considering that I'd been gone, basically nothing was packed at my old office, so I really had bigger fish to fry anyway. After streaming on March 20th, I packed up nearly the entire office, tore down the server the following day, and had everything moved into the new office by the 22nd. It was kind of a whirlwind. Now, because the floors weren't installed, everything just kind of got stacked all over the place. Thankfully, my general contractor rushed to get the carpet installed as soon as it came in, and by March 25th, it was installed. Over the course of the 26th and 27th, I was incredibly busy. I actually set up a temporary, super janky recording and streaming setup. I set up my server room temporarily, and I added a structured media enclosure to the room to keep everything nice and organized. And if you follow me on my main channel, you'll know that it was one of the worst streams I've ever had. I had all sorts of computer problems that were not related to this space, but it was an absolute disaster. Thankfully, everything's been resolved, but my computer's died. Now, the server room is basically a project unto itself, so I'll save that whole process for another video, so look forward to that in the future. Now, also on those days, I ended up getting sucked into a bunch of mini projects, like replacing my Honeywell thermostat with a 4th gen Nest, which I absolutely love. It's so easy to use, it's absolutely beautiful, and it gives me the ability to turn things on and off remotely if needed. I also love its Farsight feature, which shows me the weather as I walk past. Now, at this point, I was also able to bring a ladder into the space and climb up into the loft for the first time too. And while I knew how big the space was going to be on paper, feeling it's something different. It's absolutely massive, and it's going to be basically impossible to fill. I know, famous last words, am I right? This is also when I realized for the first time that I'd be able to stand up everywhere in the loft space, which is a really welcome surprise. The next week, I had 26 boxes of wood veneer slat wall panels delivered from the Wood Veneer Hub. And just look at the panels I got. Their natural walnut planks are absolutely beautiful. And I just love the feeling that wood brings to a space like this and how moody it makes the room feel. I also love how easy they are to install. They're super light, and they're very easy to cut using an oscillating saw. But most importantly, I love that they've improved the acoustics of the room so much. I went from an echo chamber to a place that I can record in, at least after adding a couple of these curtains and sound blankets as well. Throughout April, the last few punch list items have slowly been ticked off the list. The dishwasher was installed, the toe kicks were installed in the kitchen, baseboards were installed around all the floors, and handles were added to the kitchen cabinets. At this point, I think that the only remaining items are adding transition strips in between the carpeted areas and the concrete areas, as well as door stops. I also need to figure out a permanent solution for accessing the loft. I've been looking at these folding stairs that are made in Australia of bamboo and have received a whole bunch of design awards. It seems like they'd fit perfectly right here and wouldn't take up a bunch of space. Now, to wrap up, I thought it'd be nice to just do a walkthrough of this space. So when you first walk in, there is the City Planner Plays sign. We've got the admin space right here. Where I've left this is that I basically added the slat panel to the back wall. So this room is basically done. I just need to clear out some of the materials. To the left right here is the storage space. Got a mop bucket as well as an air purifier and the refrigerator from my old office that I don't know what to do with. So it's just kind of in here. Moving on this way, got Banjo. He's been coming to work with me every single day, along with some plants and a couch. Right here is the editor's suite. I haven't done anything here just yet. That's a lot of work to do in here. But eventually what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is add the slats to this back wall right here. So those are down here. The slats in the other room are going to go into the production space. And what I'm thinking here is that I basically just want to wrap this wall. The desk is likely going to move right about here so that it's a little bit closer to the background. I'm likely going to change the background a little bit. And then I'm going to place the couch or a couch back here and have a teleprompter set up in front of the couch. So that'll be my second set space. Now, an interesting thing about this space is that I have some curtains back here. Those are sound blankets and curtains, and it's basically just to reduce the reverb in this room. There's still a lot of work to do. I've done nothing with the roof, though I've been in contact with a company out of La Crosse that is basically nationally renowned for some of the work that they do with sound panels. Done the exact same thing right here, temporary solution using pretty inexpensive materials. And I think it's actually doing a pretty good job. Walking out here, not a lot has happened in the hallway. Basically, there's the track lighting and the thermostat, and then we make our way into the kitchen. I've basically made this ladder a permanent fixture. That is not the way it's gonna be. Obviously, something better has to be done. Thinking that those steps are gonna go right up here, and then I'll be able to fold them into the wall, which means that I need to relocate this, but honestly, I don't need this because there's plenty of storage in the kitchen as it is. And this kitchen space has turned out really, really nice. Got a small fridge right here, a dishwasher, some storage, a microwave, and then obviously coffee because I'm a coffee fiend. Moving in here to the server space, this is my shame. I've got a lot of work to do in here, but I've got my new server right there, the old server on the ground. Obviously, I've got to set this up. That'll come in a future video. And then honestly, there's just a whole bunch of junk in here that I need to clean up. It's kind of my shame. That's going to be a project for a coming day. Over here, we have the bathroom where I've installed a bidet because, you know, I just think it's a more civilized way of doing business. Coming up here, we have the loft, and this space is absolutely awesome. So there's the water heater right there, a bunch of other random junk. And then back here, there's storage for all of my equipment. I'm able to save all of my boxes. I'm gonna end up adding a whole bunch of racks up here for merch. And then eventually, I'll be able to keep everything locally. Now, with all of that, even though I'm not quite done with the space just yet, I do think that I'm done with this video. So if you wanna see the server room build out or the desk setup videos in the future, make sure that you subscribe. And until next time, take care and bye-bye.